Hey you, thanks for joining me. So, about 2.5 years ago, I found out that I have ADHD. And since then, I have been experimenting with things, trying to figure out what works best with me to get along with my brain. And although I've tried meds, I am not currently medicated for ADHD. So, tools and strategies come in clutch for me to find balance in my life. And I thought I would share some of those tools and strategies with you today because some of them are things that I have really had to find out for myself. And hopefully, that helps some other people. If you have anything you want to share in the comments related to things that work for you, that would be super cool. Exercise can be a fairly loaded term, I would say. It does have a lot of extra steps that we don't always acknowledge that can make it tough for us to do daily or for us to do as much as we would like to. So what's helped me is reframing and changing my goals up a little bit. So I now really prioritize getting movement into my day over exercise. I still do try and get exercise, but when it's realistic. Between every hour and a half, I try to get a little movement break and even sometimes move during that just to find ways to stretch a little, move a little. Sometimes these movement breaks will just be things like dancing or putting away dishes and just trying to get extra movement while I'm doing that. Sometimes it's just sitting on the floor, getting up from the floor, doing some stretches, lifting weights for a few minutes. That's something that's really helped me for focus and also for getting more movement throughout my day. I also try to go for walks and do exercise or movement that feels really fun when I have the time to and the capability to. So things like swimming or climbing or going for hikes, those are all things that I enjoy, and they also do involve wanting to obtain a certain fitness level to be able to do them. And so that's something that's kind of a good motivator for me as well. I do find for myself, if I'm doing movement or exercise that my body is not adjusted for, I do have worse functioning afterwards for a little bit, and I do get more agitated. So I try to plan that for evenings or days where I really don't have to do things afterwards, because I know that I'm going to be a bit of a mess. So as much as morning workouts and things look super appealing, I know that if I push myself a little bit too much in those, that I will probably not be functioning as well as I would like to be. I find once I'm actually adjusted to the activity, to that amount of exertion, that sort of thing, I can do those things earlier in the day, but when I'm kind of working up to them, it's better for me to do them later in the day or on a day that really the stakes are not high at all. So I also have started to prioritize fun a lot more. There's one book that kind of brings this concept together called ADHD, and it's kind of talking about all these benefits of play and having fun and how it can actually be so beneficial for ADHD. I've realized that I actually have a fun mechanism that I was doing without realizing it. So I sing a lot, I make little parody songs all the time, and I realized that that was a way of me regulating myself. It was a way of me kind of helping myself, and I actually noticed this after I was taking meds for a bit, and I was singing a lot less, so it was oh, I don't actually do that as much anymore. And then I started connecting the dots of oh, I'm doing it more on a day that I really need it. So it's kind of cool that it's a tool that I didn't realize I used, but it kind of shed light on how vital that is for me and how that fun, that way of making things kind of interesting through different things really helps me without really being intentional about it. So now I just try to throw a little bit more intention in it as I can, make goofy faces at myself if I pass by my face in a mirror, do a little dance, do a little shimmy or butt wiggle or something. Another game changer for me that I discovered this year was scheduling and figuring out a system that works for me. I'm not going to go too in-depth in this for this video, but if anyone wants a more in-depth video on exactly how I do this, I can do that. Basically, the main points of it are that I always start out with my goals and my need to do things. Then I start breaking things out into realistic time chunks. I'm focused on certain tasks that I want to get done. I try to break them into 60 to 90 minute chunks of time that I'm working on them, and then I book myself a 15-minute movement/fun break. So that time I can go and look at things if I want to on the internet. I can go and just move around. I could go for a walk. I can do all of those things in that 15-minute time, and that really refreshes things and makes me more motivated for diving into the next time chunk. So obviously that doesn't work for every kind of situation, but that's one of the things that I try to do if I've got kind of a few things that I'm trying to focus on in the day. I do use timers to help me to know when to transition to the next task, so I can kind of get lost in the task that I'm doing until the timer goes off. And then I do kind of force myself to stop kind of right at that spot, because if you kind of go, oh, I just gotta finish this little thing, then sometimes you lose the track of time. What you could do is set a timer to stop, like say 2 minutes before your task should be done, and then set another timer for 2 minutes after that, so that you have like 2 minutes to wrap up your stuff, if that works better for you. But I try to really keep that brain trust or self-trust for myself, that like when this timer goes off, that is when I transition to another task. And just, yeah, trusting and building that consistency with myself has been really huge. And the other thing that it's really been great for is just to have less guilt about wasting time, and also the things that I cannot do. I can very clearly see when I'm scheduling things in, if there's something that just does not fit in there, that's not like a me problem, that's just like the confines of time in a day. And that has been so huge for me, to just feel so much less guilt about how I was spending time and what I was or wasn't accomplishing. So sometimes when someone is talking to me, I have a hard time just staying focused, which I think is a pretty common ADHD thing. And one thing that I find helps with that is I will sometimes repeat, either like by mouthing words, actually repeating words, or just repeating them in my head, what the person is saying. So as they have a gap in what they're saying, I will repeat what they have just said. I think it kind of works in part similar to how like the listening to things at 1.5 to 2 times speed seems to help for me to stay focused on what's being said and actually like process it better. I think having that taking up so much of my cognitive attention allows me to actually soak in what the person is saying. I really liked books as a kid, and I loved reading, but at some point my brain started to see reading as work, and I really struggled to read physical books. And I have found that e-readers are really helpful. So I have one that I can have stand in different positions. It has buttons. I can read it in so many different ways. Like it's waterproof. I can read it in bed without any lights. I can just have it at different distances and just put the font at a different size. I don't have to see how far I am into the book, which sometimes helps me. I don't have to worry about the texture of the book. Sometimes books just have an awful texture. Like there's books that I see at bookstores sometimes, and I like touch it and I'm like, oh my goodness, like that is so inaccessible to me. So e-readers have been fantastic. You can also like look up the definition of words on them, so you don't have to go onto your phone. The other thing I will say about books is this is a physical book that I was able to read. This is a book meant for younger audiences, but it was super cute. And I really liked that it had super short chapters. Like every chapter was like maybe a couple of pages, 2 to 3 pages kind of thing. And there's like little pictures in there. It's so cute. I haven't read any of the other ones. Hopefully they're good. But this was one physical book that I really enjoyed. And so I just want to say there's no shame in reading books that are meant for younger audiences, and sometimes that can really help to get you out of a reading hump, help you to feel accomplished. So I have made another video about journaling, but it is something that's been really, really helpful for me for just getting ideas down, making notes of things, planning out my days, scheduling myself. I've been really using my journal pretty consistently now that I've kind of figured out a system that works for me. So if that's something that interests you, there is another video about that. So I struggle often to remember if I have locked a door or if I have turned off the stove, as I'm sure a lot of people do, or if you're taking meds, if you took a med. One thing that helps me is to repeat it 3 times. Bonus points if someone is around to hear you, or do something memorable. Like I've heard people say, like, do something stupid and then you'll remember it. But sometimes, or like take a picture of it. But I find just like, if I do it and I go like, okay, the door is locked, the door is locked, the door is locked, or the stove is off, the stove is off, the stove is off. I'm like confirming it 3 times in my head, and that usually seems to be a golden number for me. The next thing I want to talk about is how I have been more mindful about what I'm consuming. And this is a few caveats. So one, I am more intentional about when I am consuming music, books, and podcasts. I found that I was actually getting more irritable because I was listening to things just because like it was routine for me. So if I was driving, I would default to listening to something. If I was doing a certain task, I would default to listening to something. But it wasn't that I always like actually wanted that. Sometimes I actually liked to have silence, to just like make my own noises, to have my own thoughts, to just do my own thing. And so just being more intentional about when I'm listening to those things. So trying to do them when I'm scheduling fun breaks or when I'm doing something that I really want to like make more fun, then I will listen to those things. But I try not to consume them kind of in the background if I'm not able to like fully appreciate them. I also like really try not to wear headphones when I'm outside, being more present with my surroundings, being more mindful about what's around me, paying attention to those things when I can. And I find that helps just with my overall mood. And I also find that there is a balance to how much ADHD content that I can consume. So it can be really great to see ADHD content and feel validated in what is difficult, what things we're experiencing. But I do find that if I expose myself to too much of it, especially ADHD content that is specifically talking about like, this is a thing that ADHD people often experience, or like, this is a struggle that ADHD people have, it actually makes me more aware of the things that I'm struggling with in a way that actually like I notice that I feel more debilitated. I try to really be more mindful now about how much of that stuff I see, and try to kind of restrict things to things that are giving more solutions or like positive views of ADHD. So I put deodorant by the door. I don't keep it in the bathroom. I have a container in the shower that I put hair that has come out when I'm washing my hair. So before this, I would like have hair fall out when I'm washing my hair, stick it on the wall, try to remember to grab it when you're getting out of the shower, and inevitably have a very, very bad success rate of picking it up. So now I have a container in the shower specifically for holding those hairs. I have reminders, visual reminders, whiteboards all over. I use them in my videos. I have them for recipes. I have so that I like write out a recipe on the whiteboard and then I don't have to look on my phone. I don't have to look up the recipe on anything else. I have sometimes like just recipes so that I can remember foods that we liked. I like to write down, I have like a calendar whiteboard that I sometimes remember to fill in. That's really good for my partner and I figuring out what we're doing when. The Post-it sticker whiteboards are so good. I don't know if anyone else has this problem, but when I get out of the shower, I don't like to get dressed right out of the shower because I still feel like kind of damp. And so I would often like have a lag period between getting out of the shower and getting dressed because I want to like dry out more. But I found that a workaround for that is actually using a hairdryer. So I don't usually dry my hair, partially because I just don't like how loud a hairdryer is right by your ears. But I do it for basically the rest of my body. So I will just like blow the hairdryer. It feels really nice. And it just feels like I get any like residual moisture from areas that are a little harder to dry. That's about all I have off the top of my head at the moment. Let me know if you would like to see any more ADHD content from me. I have a few other ideas. Thanks. Take care. Bye.